Jake Miller had fixed cars in Denver for 8 years. His hands knew every bolt and wire in an engine better than he knew himself. The work was honest and simple and predictable until the Monday morning that changed his life forever. The day started, normally enough. Jake bought black coffee from the corner shop where Maria always had his order ready. He walked the 6 blocks to work, enjoying the cool October air. The first yellow leaves were falling from the trees. Everything felt peaceful and ordinary. Then he noticed her for the first time. She stood beside the fountain in the small park across from his workplace. At first glance, she seemed like any other woman waiting for someone. But Jake's eyes caught details that made him stop walking. Her skin had a faint silver shine like morning frost. Her white hair moved in impossible ways as if underwater. She stood too perfectly still without the tiny movements all humans make. Jake blinked and looked. Again. The woman was staring directly at him. Her eyes shifted from deep ocean blue to violet as he watched. The coffee cup trembled in his hand. He forced himself to turn away and walk into the repair shop. Inside, Tom, his boss, was already working on an old truck. Tom looked up and frowned at Jake's pale face. "You look like you saw a ghost," Tom said. "Maybe I did," Jake muttered. He put on his work coveralls and tried to focus on the day ahead. 3 oil changes and a transmission repair. Normal work for normal people. He avoided looking out the window, but his mind kept returning to the woman. Earth had known about aliens for 5 years. They came to trade and study, and sometimes just to see the planet that created jazz music and chocolate. Most aliens registered with the government and followed rules. They stayed in certain areas and did not bother regular people. This woman felt different. She had been watching him specifically. Jake was nobody special. He lived in a 1-bedroom apartment and ate frozen dinners most nights. Why would an alien care about him? During lunch, Jake finally looked outside. She was gone. He felt both relief and disappointment. Maybe he had imagined the whole thing. Maybe working too many late nights was affecting his mind. After work, Jake took his usual route home. He stopped at the grocery store for milk and bread. As he reached for the milk, his hand froze. The woman stood at the end of the aisle. The fluorescent lights made her silver skin glow. She was closer now, and Jake could see more wrong details. Her fingers had too many joints. Her neck was too long. She never blinked. Jake abandoned his shopping and left through the back exit. His heart pounded as he walked quickly down side streets. Every shadow might be her. Every movement in the corner of his eye made him jump. When he reached his apartment building, she was there first. She stood under the broken streetlight that had been dark for months. Tonight, it flickered with weak orange light that made her look even less human. Jake ran up the 2 flights of stairs to his apartment. He locked the door and pulled the curtains shut. Then he sat on his couch trying to understand what was happening. Why was an alien following him? What did she want? Should he call the police? He opened his laptop and searched for news about alien encounters. Most stories were positive. Aliens helping with medical research. Aliens sharing technology. Aliens learning Earth languages. Nothing about aliens stalking random mechanics. Tuesday morning, Jake considered staying home, but rent was due next week and he needed the money. He gathered his courage and left for work. The woman was nowhere in sight. Jake began to relax as he walked to the coffee shop. Maria smiled as she handed him his usual order. "You look tired, Jake. Everything okay?" "Just one of those weeks," Jake said. He made it to work without seeing the alien woman. The morning passed peacefully. Jake repaired a minivan's brakes and helped Tom with an engine rebuild. For a few hours, life felt normal again. Then during lunch, she appeared in the shop's parking lot. She stood beside a blue sedan as if admiring it, but her eyes never left the shop windows. Never left Jake. Tom noticed Jake frozen by the window. "Is that woman bothering you? Should I go talk to her?" "No," Jake said quickly. "She is just someone I used to know. It is complicated." Tom shrugged and went back to work. But Jake could not concentrate. Every few minutes he checked the window. She never moved from her spot. Cars drove around her. People walked past without seeming to notice her. She just watched and waited. At closing time, Jake tried to wait her out. He stayed an extra hour cleaning tools and organizing parts. When he finally left, she was gone. But Jake knew she would appear again. They always did in patterns of 3. Sure enough, as he turned onto his street, she stood at the corner. Closer than before. Close enough that he could hear something like breathing, but not quite right. Like wind through pipes. Jake stopped walking. His grandfather had taught him that running from problems only made them chase you faster. Time to face whatever this was. What do you want? Jake asked. His voice came out steadier than he felt. The woman tilted her head at an angle that would hurt a human neck. Her mouth opened and sounds emerged. Musical notes that made Jake's ears ache. Then, like tuning a radio, the sounds became words. You are different, she said. Her voice had layers like multiple people speaking together. Different from the others of your kind. Everyone is different, Jake said. That is what makes us human. No, she stepped closer. You are differently different. We have been searching for someone like you. Jake wanted to run, but his legs would not move. Who is we? What do you mean searching? My people are dying, she said. Every other species we studied gave up when faced with our plague. But humans persist. And you persist even among humans. I am just a mechanic, Jake said. I fix broken machines. Nothing special about that. The woman's eyes shifted to deep purple. You fix broken things without expecting reward. You help strangers without being asked. You continue when logic says to stop. These are the traits we need. Before Jake could respond, she stepped backwards into the shadow between 2 buildings and disappeared like smoke. Jake stood alone on the empty street. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone to call someone. But who would believe him? An alien woman was stalking him because she thought he could save her species. It sounded insane. But deep down, Jake knew this was just the beginning of something much bigger than fixing cars in Denver. Jake could not sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the alien woman and her strange words. Every small sound made him jump. Was she outside watching his window? Was she in the shadows of his room? He checked the locks 3 times before finally drifting into uneasy dreams. Wednesday morning came too soon. Jake woke with dark circles under his eyes. He made instant coffee with shaking hands. Part of him wanted to pack everything and leave town. But where would he go? And what if she followed him there too? He decided to face whatever was coming. Jake put on his work clothes and walked outside. The alien woman stood directly in front of his building. In daylight, her silver skin looked less threatening and more beautiful. She wore different clothes today, a simple blue dress that almost made her look human. My name is Lyra, she said before Jake could speak. I apologize for frightening you. That was not my intention. Jake stayed near the door, ready to run back inside. You have been stalking me for 3 days. That tends to frighten people. Lyra tilted her head. I was observing. On my world, we watch before we approach. I did not know humans would find this disturbing. Well, we do, Jake said. If you want something from me, just ask. Stop following me around like a hunter tracking prey. You are not prey, Lyra said. You might be our salvation. Jake laughed, but it sounded bitter. I fix cars for a living. I am nobody special. If you need salvation, talk to the government or scientist or someone important. Lyra stepped closer and Jake saw sadness in her color-changing eyes. We tried that first. We met with your leaders and your brightest minds. They showed us technology and weapons and strategies. But none of that is what makes humans special. Then what does Jake ask, despite himself? She pulled out a small device that projected images into the air. Jake saw planets and space stations all populated by different alien species. They looked advanced, with cities that floated and ships that bent space itself. Every species we know follows patterns, Lyra explained. The strong conquer the weak. The smart outthink the slow. When faced with death, they accept it or run. But humans do something different. The images changed, showing Earth through history. Humans fighting impossible wars. Humans surviving disasters. Humans helping enemies. Humans refusing to give up even when logic said they should. Your species loses and keeps fighting, Lyra said. You fail and try again. You see someone suffering, even a stranger or an enemy, and you help them. This behavior makes no evolutionary sense, yet you all do it. Jake shrugged. We are stubborn and stupid sometimes. That is not special. 3 months ago, Lyra said a plague began spreading through my people. It kills slowly and painfully. Our medicine cannot stop it. Our technology cannot cure it. 20 billion of us across 40 worlds are dying. The weight of her words hit Jake hard. 20 billion was a number too big to really understand. He thought about every person he knew multiplied by millions. Your scientists cannot help, Jake asked. They gave up, Lyra said simply. The plague adapts too quickly. Each cure fails within days. Our people accept death as inevitable now. Parents watch children die without fighting anymore. Everyone waits for their turn. Jake felt sick thinking about it. But what can I do? I am not a doctor or scientist. Yesterday I watched you, Lyra said. Not stalking, but observing. You helped 7 different people without them asking. You fixed an old man's bicycle for free. You carried groceries for a pregnant woman. You gave money to a homeless veteran. You played with a lost child until her mother found her. Those are just normal things, Jake protested. No. Lyra shook her head. They are human things. No other species would waste energy helping strangers with no benefit to themselves. We think this is why humans survive impossibilities. You believe helping others helps everyone, including yourselves eventually. Jake sat down on the steps, feeling overwhelmed. You want me to teach your people to care about each other? More than that, Lyra said. We need human volunteers to come to our worlds. Not to give us technology, but to show us how to keep fighting when everything seems lost. How to help each other when it would be easier to give up. How to hope when logic says there is no hope. That is asking a lot, Jake said. We are not asking for free, Lyra replied. We offer our technology and knowledge in exchange. But more importantly, we offer the chance to save billions of children who will die without human help. Jake thought about his nephew who had died from cancer 2 years ago. He remembered how the whole family fought alongside him, never giving up even when doctors said there was no chance. His nephew had smiled and laughed until the very end because everyone around him refused to let despair win. How many humans would you need? Jake asked. As many as will come, Lyra said. Doctors to treat the sick, engineers to build hospitals, teachers to show our children that giving up is not an option. Regular people like you to remind us that caring for others is not weakness, but strength. Jake stood up and looked at the alien woman. Her eyes had turned a deep purple that he now recognized as hope. I need time to think, Jake said. I will wait, Lyra replied. But please understand that every day more die. Every hour more give up. We have forgotten how to fight. Humans never forget. She handed him the projection device. It contained images of her dying world and information about the plague. Jake took it with steady hands this time. He was just a mechanic, but maybe that did not matter. Maybe what mattered was being human and refusing to do nothing while others suffered. When do you need an answer? Jake asked. Soon, Lyra said. Before we forget what hope looks like completely. Jake called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. Tom, his boss, sounded worried on the phone, but Jake promised he would be back tomorrow. He needed today to think about the biggest decision of his life. He sat at his kitchen table studying the device Lyra had given him. The images showed cities built from crystal where aliens lay dying in the streets, hospitals overflowing with the sick, parents holding children who had already given up fighting. The more Jake watched, the heavier his chest felt. Around noon, he called his sister Lisa, who worked as a nurse in Chicago. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding tired from her night shift. Lisa, Jake said, if you could save millions of lives but had to leave Earth to do it, would you go? There was silence on the line before Lisa laughed. What kind of question is that, Jake? Are you feeling okay? Just answer honestly, Jake pressed. Lisa sighed. I became a nurse to help people. If millions needed help and I could provide it, then yes, I would go. Even to Mars or wherever. Why are you asking this? Jake wanted to tell her everything but held back. No reason. Just thinking about life choices. Thanks, Lisa. After hanging up, Jake walked to the park where children were playing. He watched them run and laugh and fight over toys, then make up and play together again. Such a human thing to fight and forgive and keep going. He wondered if alien children played the same way, or if they were different. That afternoon, Jake visited his friend Carlos, who taught high school science. They sat in Carlos's classroom after the students left. What makes humans different from other animals? Jake asked. Carlos raised an eyebrow at the random question, but answered anyway. Lots of things. Language and tools and art. But if I had to pick one thing, it would be that we tell stories. We pass down knowledge and inspire each other with tales of people who did impossible things. Even if those stories are about helping strangers, Jake asked. Especially then, Carlos said. Every culture has stories about heroes who sacrifice for others. It teaches children that helping people matters more than personal gain. Why the sudden interest in anthropology? Jake shrugged. Just wondering if we really are special or if we just tell ourselves that. Carlos leaned back in his chair. You know what I tell my students? Humans went from caves to the moon in 10,000 years. We are definitely special, probably too stubborn, to know when we are beaten. Jake left the school thinking about Carlos's words. Maybe that was exactly what Lyra's people needed. Not human medicine or technology, but human stubbornness and stories of never giving up. That evening, Jake found Lyra waiting outside his apartment. She looked weaker than before. Her silver skin seemed duller, and her movements slower. Are you sick? Jake asked, alarmed. Not yet, Lyra said, but I feel my people dying. We are connected in ways humans are not. Each death weakens the rest of us. Soon the despair will reach me too. Jake made a decision that surprised himself. Come inside. You look like you need to sit down. Lyra followed him up the stairs. She moved carefully, like each step took effort. Inside Jake's small apartment, she sat on his old couch and looked around with curious eyes. You live simply, she observed. Most humans do. Jake said, we make do with what we have and find happiness anyway. Another weird human trait, I guess. He made tea, which Lyra had never tried before. She held the warm mug carefully and took a small sip. Her eyes widened in surprise. It tastes like comfort, she said. How can a liquid taste like a feeling? Jake smiled. No idea. But chicken soup does the same thing when you are sick. Maybe that is part of what you need. Not just human help, but human comfort food and human traditions that make no sense. But work anyway. Will you come? Lyra asked. Will you help us? Jake had spent all day thinking about it. The safe answer was no. Stay on Earth and live his simple life. Fix cars and pay rent and grow old normally. But he kept seeing those dying children in the images. He kept thinking about his nephew fighting cancer with a smile because his family refused to let him give up. I will come, Jake said, but not alone. Let me make some calls. If we are doing this, we do it the human way with lots of people helping, whether it makes sense or not. Lyra's eyes turned bright blue, which Jake now knew meant joy. You will really convince others to leave everything behind for strangers. Jake pulled out his phone. That is what humans do. When disasters happen, we show up. Sometimes we make things worse at first, but we keep trying until we get it right. Your people need to learn that failing is not the end. It is just another step toward success. He called Lisa back and told her everything. She thought he was joking at first, then asked a million questions. But when Jake explained about the dying children, Lisa said she would be there tomorrow with 3 other nurses who would probably volunteer too. Carlos required more convincing, but agreed to meet Lyra. Once he saw the projection device and understood the scale of the tragedy, he started making his own calls to teacher friends. By midnight, Jake's small apartment was full of people. 2 doctors from the local hospital, 5 nurses, including Lisa, who had driven straight from Chicago, 3 teachers, a therapist named Betty who specialized in trauma, an engineer named Paul who wanted to see alien technology. Even Tom from the repair shop showed up saying he could not let Jake go on an adventure without him. Lyra stood in the center of the room, tears streaming down her silver face. Jake had not known her species could cry. "Why are you all here?" she asked. "You do not know us. We are not your people. This is not your problem." Betty the therapist answered first. "Honey, when someone needs help, it becomes everyone's problem. That is how humans survive. We make strangers into family and fight for them like they were our own." The room murmured agreement. Jake felt proud of his species in that moment. They were messy and illogical and often wrong, but they showed up when others needed them. The next morning, 27 humans stood in an empty field outside Denver, waiting for an alien ship. Word had spread overnight through phone calls and social media. More people kept arriving with backpacks and medical supplies. A reporter from the local news tried to interview Jake, but he waved her away. Lyra stood apart from the group, touching a communication device. Her people were sending a transport ship, but she looked worried. Jake walked over to check on her. "What is wrong?" Jake asked. "My people do not understand," Lyra said. "I told them humans were coming to help. They asked what technology you bring. When I said you bring hope and stubbornness, they thought I was infected with the plague madness." Jake laughed. "We get that a lot. Humans rarely make sense to anyone, including ourselves. But watch what happens when we show up." A silver ship appeared in the morning sky. It descended silently, unlike the loud rockets humans built. The ship was smooth like liquid metal with no visible windows or doors. It settled onto the grass without disturbing a single blade. An opening formed in the side. Lyra gestured for the humans to enter. Some hesitated, looking back at Earth one last time. Lisa grabbed Jake's hand and squeezed it. "We are really doing this," she whispered. "Having second thoughts?" Jake asked. "No," she said. "Just first thoughts about how crazy we are." They entered the ship, finding seats that adjusted automatically to human bodies. The walls became transparent, showing Denver shrinking below them. Earth became a blue marble, then a dot, then nothing as they entered something Lyra called fold space. The journey took 3 hours, though Lyra said they traveled thousands of light years. Jake used the time to organize the volunteers. The doctors and nurses would start at hospitals. The teachers would work with children. Others would go wherever needed. Tom the mechanic sat next to Jake. "You know we might die there, right? This plague could kill humans too." Jake nodded. "Maybe. But if we stayed safe on Earth and let billions die, we would stop being human." Sometimes, being human means taking stupid risks for good reasons. The ship emerged from fold space above a planet that looked like Earth, but wrong. The oceans were purple. The continents were arranged differently. 3 moons hung in the green sky. As they descended, Jake saw the cities Lyra had shown him. Beautiful crystal towers that caught light and threw rainbows. But the streets between them were empty. No vehicles moved. No people walked. It looked like a world already dead. They landed near what Lyra called a medical center. When the humans exited the ship, hundreds of aliens had gathered. They looked like Lyra with silver skin and white hair, but their eyes were all dark gray. The color of despair, Jake realized. A tall alien who introduced himself as Commander Zelen approached the humans. His movements were slow and tired. "We appreciate your arrival," he said formally. "But you should know that 5 million more died yesterday. The plague adapts to everything we try. Coming here was brave but pointless." Betty the therapist stepped forward before Jake could respond. She was 60 years old with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen everything. "Honey," she said to the commander, "I have been a therapist for 30 years. Want to know what I learned? The only pointless thing is giving up before you try." She walked past the commander toward the medical center. The other humans followed her without hesitation. The aliens watched in confusion as these strangers walked into their plague zone without fear. Inside the medical center, Jake saw the true horror. Thousands of aliens lay on beds not moving. They were not dead, but they were not trying to live either. Parents sat beside sick children without speaking or touching them. Medical workers moved slowly like they were already ghosts. Lisa and the nurses immediately started checking patients. The alien medical workers tried to stop them. "The plague is contagious," one said. "You will die." Maybe, Lisa replied. "But we are going to try to help first. Show me your medical data." The alien gestured to a wall of symbols Jake could not read. Lisa studied it for 5 minutes, then turned to the other nurses. "The plague is not killing them directly," she announced. "It is attacking their will to live. Their immune systems could fight it, but they are not trying. We need to remind them how to fight," how asked Carlos. "The human way," Lisa said. "We annoy them until they get angry enough to live." What happened next would have been funny if lives were not at stake. The humans dispersed through the medical center, doing things that made no medical sense. Carlos started telling bad jokes to anyone who would listen. Betty sat with parents and asked about their children until they started talking. Tom began fixing broken equipment while singing off-key songs. Jake found a young alien child alone in a corner. She looked about 8 years old in human terms. Her eyes were solid gray, and she had not moved in days according to the chart beside her bed. Jake sat down and started talking. He told her about Earth and humans and cars and pizza. She did not respond, but he kept talking. He told her about his nephew who fought cancer and loved dinosaurs and wanted to be an astronaut. Hours passed. Jake's throat hurt from talking, but he continued. Then he noticed something. The child's eyes had a tiny fleck of blue in the gray. He reached out and took her small hand. It was cold, but he held it anyway. Humans did not give up on children. Ever. "Can you hear me?" Jake asked softly. The child's fingers moved slightly in his hand. Jake smiled and kept talking. He told her about puppies and ice cream and rainbow after rain. Slowly, more blue appeared in her eyes. Other humans noticed and came to help. They surrounded the child with stories and songs and terrible jokes until finally she spoke one word. Why? What Jake asked. "Why do you care?" she whispered. "I am not your species, not your child. Why do you stay?" Jake squeezed her hand gently. "Because that is what humans do. We care even when it makes no sense. We fight for strangers like they were family. We believe everyone deserves someone who will not give up on them." The child's eyes turned full blue. She sat up slowly and looked around at the humans surrounding her bed. Then she did something that changed everything. She smiled. Within hours, word spread through the medical center. The humans were not curing the plague medically. They were curing the despair that let the plague win. One by one, aliens began fighting back simply because humans refused to let them give up. Over the next week, more humans arrived from Earth. The news had spread and volunteers came from every country. Doctors and teachers, but also artists and musicians and cooks. Each ship brought people who had no logical reason to risk their lives for aliens except that it was the right thing to do. Jake barely slept. He moved between hospital rooms talking to patients and organizing volunteers. The alien child he had saved followed him everywhere. She told him her name was Mira, and she wanted to learn how to be stubborn like humans. Not everyone appreciated the human presence. Commander Zelen called a meeting on the 7th day. Jake attended with Lisa and Betty. "Your methods are chaos," Zelen said. "Humans singing and telling stories and cooking strange food. This is not medicine. This is not science." "No," Jake agreed. "It is not. But how many of your people are fighting now compared to last week?" Zelen consulted his data pad. "The improvement rate is 70%, but this makes no sense. The plague still exists. Your people have given us no cure." Betty leaned forward. "Commander, the plague attacked your will to live first. Once your people stopped fighting, their bodies stopped fighting too. We are not curing the plague. We are curing the giving up, but..." "Why do you care?" Zelen asked. "Our species offers you nothing. We are dying. A logical species would leave us to our fate and take our technology when we are gone." Lisa laughed, which seemed to confuse Zelen more. "Commander, humans are the least logical species in the galaxy. We adopt pets that serve no purpose. We risk our lives to save strangers. We cry at movies about people who never existed. Logic is not our strong point. Then what is Zelon asked. Jake thought about it. Hope maybe. We hope even when we should not. We believe things will get better even when evidence says otherwise, and we spread that hope like a virus to everyone around us. That night Jake was visiting patients when alarms started sounding. He ran to the command center where Lyra and Zelon stood before a large screen. The image showed something that made Jake's blood run cold. Another alien species had arrived. Their ships were black and angular like weapons in space. Zelon's face went pale, which was impressive since he was already silver. The Ravagers, Zelon said. They consume dying worlds. They must have heard about our plague. How many ships? Jake asked. 50, Lyra said. Each carries weapons that can destroy cities. We have 10 defense ships and crews too sick to fly them properly. On the screen, the black ships moved closer to the planet. A message came through in a harsh language that the translator converted. Your world is dying, the voice said. Surrender your resources and we will make your end quick. Resist and we will take everything while you suffer. Jake looked around the command center. The aliens there had started to get that gray color in their eyes again. The despair was returning. No, Jake said loudly. You do not give up now, not after we came this far. Zelon turned to him. What can we do? We are sick and outnumbered. They are strong and healthy. Logic says we cannot win. Jake grinned. Good thing humans do not use logic. Get me a communication channel to those ships. Lyra looked confused but opened a channel. Jake stepped forward to the screen where the Ravager commander could see him. The alien looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes and sharp mandibles. This is Jake Miller from Earth, he said. You need to leave now. The Ravager commander made a sound like laughing. One human giving orders. Your species is young and weak. Stand aside or be destroyed with these dying creatures. Jake did not back down. Let me tell you about humans. We are the species that survived ice ages with stone tools. We fought diseases that killed millions and came back stronger. We went to war with ourselves and rebuilt from ashes. We are too stubborn to know when we are beaten. Your words mean nothing, the Ravager said. Jake turned to Tom, who stood nearby. Remember that thing we talked about? The really stupid idea that might work. Tom grinned. The one where we use their own ships against them. Jake nodded, then turned back to the screen. Here is what is going to happen. You are going to leave, or we are going to make you leave. Your choice. The Ravager commander cut the communication, and the black ships moved closer. But something else was happening too. The humans were not panicking. Instead, they were planning. Carlos gathered the teachers and started explaining basic Earth military tactics to alien pilots. Lisa and the medical team worked to get more aliens on their feet. Tom and the engineers headed to the defense ships to make modifications. The aliens watched in amazement as humans took charge of a hopeless situation. More importantly, the aliens started helping. The gray left their eyes replaced by colors of determination. Jake found himself in the lead defense ship with Lyra and a mixed crew of humans and aliens. Tom had done something to the engines that, he claimed, would make them faster. Carlos had taught the gunners about something called guerrilla warfare. The Ravager ships opened fire first. Energy beams lit up the sky. But the defense ships were not where they were supposed to be. They moved in patterns that made no sense, dodging and weaving like Tom drove his pickup truck back home. Jake watched Lyra pilot the ship. Her eyes were bright purple now. She was fighting with a fierce joy he had not seen before. Around them, the other defense ships fought the same way. Not with careful, calculated moves, but with human-taught chaos. Betty's voice came over the communications. She had stayed in the medical center. You should see this. Every patient is watching. They are cheering. These people have not made sounds in weeks, and now they are cheering. The battle turned into something the Ravagers had not expected. The sick and dying aliens were not just fighting back. They were winning. Each small victory brought more hope. Each bit of hope made them fight harder. 2 hours into the battle, 7 Ravager ships were damaged. The defense ships had taken hits too, but kept fighting. Humans and aliens worked together, patching holes and rerouting power. Then something beautiful happened. Civilian ships started launching from the planet. Not warships, but transports and cargo vessels. They flew straight at the Ravager fleet. "What are they doing?" Lyra asked. Jake smiled. "Being human. Or learning to be human. They are showing the Ravagers that this whole planet will fight. Even the sick and dying will not give up." The Ravager commander appeared on screen again. "This is impossible. You cannot win." Jake stepped forward one more time. "You are right. By logic, we cannot win. But we are going to fight anyway. We are going to get back up every time you knock us down. We are going to make this victory cost you everything. That is what humans taught these people. Sometimes you fight, not because you can win, but because it is right." The screen went dark. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Ravager ships started turning away. One by one, they left orbit and disappeared into fold space.